07 Commanders. Commander Will Ferian here, leader of the Vortex Squadron, and today we're going to talk about everything from paywalls to permit locks being lifted. We're going to get into this galactic vibes for November 14th. Alrighty, now it has been a crazy week. It's been quite the roller coaster ride for commanders in the Milky Way galaxy this week as we turn to a new things. We can start with patch notes. Like some of the highlights from the patch notes. Let's take a look right here. We've got the Dodec update. Now, the Dodec, before you get excited. The Dodec update is basically a space station. It's not displayed here. It is actually on the thumbnail, though. So if you missed out on that, there's a picture of that right on the thumbnail. And when it came out, the original announcement was that it was going to be for ARCs only. There was not going to be any kind of pre-release time for this dock. And yeah, that caused quite the stir in the community. Unfortunately, that was a really bad decision, and I think FDev realized it because literally everybody was coming out of the woodwork to denounce said changes. And, within 24 hours, they backpedaled on that, and now they're going to give it a pre-release time, just like a spaceship. It's a much better idea for a couple of reasons, especially with this Dodec. The Dodec is obviously a harken back to days of old. Some of the older Elite games had the Dodec on it. From experience, I can tell you the Dodec is much harder for me to find the dang entrance. I'll tell you that right now. I don't have a Dodec up yet, but I do have one. I just haven't placed it because I need to create the points. And that's one of the biggest things you have to remember. If the Dodec is not going to be the first station you drop, you do have to build up the 6 tier 3 points to get the Dodec on its way, on its journey into history and love and colony and everything like that. So if you're an architect, keep that in mind. Don't forget, you got to kind of make sure you got that. Now, also with the colonization, while they were at that, it's in the features of note here, but the colonization itself, when you do place things now, the values have changed as to how much stations affect other structures. So if you build one station, you will have to build quite a few supporting structures to break its market. Now, previously you could break the market fairly easily. To, like, if you wanted to say you placed a Dodec next to a star and it was all extraction, you could very easily break that extraction and change it to something else. Say you wanted a different color interior. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people are interested in. There's certain interiors in the game that are really cool, and there's some that are not as cool. And I think people like to have a certain kind of interior. The tourism interior is one of the most populars. I believe also the agricultural is really popular. They're the stations with lots of plants and trees, and the tourism one's all white and stuff like that. But in any event, just make sure you get that handled, and be careful when you are installing these things to make sure that, if you can, use SRV Survey and the ED Market Connector together to plan these systems out ahead of time, so you can kind of tell what's going to happen. If you want to know ahead of time, if you just want to be surprised, then yeah. Now, if you place a Dodec next to a water world, it's going to be tourism. If you place it, next to a rocky world, it's going to probably be or a rocky or a high metal. It's likely to be extraction. So you got to be careful what you do and make sure that you can manipulate that economy to the best of your ability. Now we'll talk more about this at another time, but for today, you can also see that the no truss, quint truss, and deck truss are options. I'm not a fan of the deck truss. I'll tell you that right now. That thing looks like, I don't know. It kind of looks like an abomination to me, but I mean, some people like it. Obviously, some people are going to use it. That's fine. But it also, as far as I know, using auto dock with it can be a little tricky because there's a lot of hammers floating around there trying to kill you. So we don't know for sure. So this is the older description of what's going on with the unlocks and construction rights and all that. So that's what I was just talking about. The Powerplay care packages, this is probably a pretty significant one. I actually appreciate this one because this is the first thing I complained about right out of the box. Like, yeah, the whenever you open a claim packet or a package from Powerplay, you can't tell. First of all, you can't tell if you previously opened it, and when you did open it, it would sort in whatever direction it wanted to go by itself. It would just, so you'd end up opening the same one over and over because every time you'd open it, it would move, and and it didn't turn colors or didn't have an open symbol or anything like that. So in any event, they fixed that. So now, what if you are full on materials or if you are maxed out on materials, then it will automatically switch to a credit amount at some point. And after 30 days, it will also continue to turn itself into cold hard cash, commanders. That's what we like around here. The Powerplay also they put in some measures to prevent unfair amounts. So the people that like to grind it all the way to 100 for whatever reason, they like to do that, and so they find ways to do that quicker, so they can do it in a day instead of a month or 2 months or whatever it takes. I don't even know, because I don't know. I don't grind that out. I don't even care about any of that stuff. But the system score and merit gain from the on-foot transfer power data activity has been re-enabled. Now, they had shut that off a while back. There was some problems with it. The biggest one, though, is this last one here. It is no longer possible to gain excess merits or control score by selling commodities one at a time or by undermining with laundered low-value commodities. So those were two little tricks that the commanders were doing, and now those are no longer available. So, boys, get your T11s out there. You better start going mining because that's the next best way to go. Colonization got some changes, guys. We got some changes. The Brewer Corporation has a new governing body, which will no longer consider certain goods illegal battle weapons, which is great because that was one of the not for me because I have a pirate system, but they were required to complete constructions, and now they've changed that, and then also they've changed the development levels, and this is the actual description. This one, I don't know if this is, I don't think that this is the updated version of this. It's actually this might be updated. Actually, it looks like it might be the updated version. So basically, when you're building a system now, it was like I was saying before, you have to add more structures to manipulate the economy. It's not as easy as it was previously, so some of the small systems could be affected. So I really like small systems, and there's a reason for that. But when you want to build multiple of tier 3 stations in a small system, it can get very tricky to try and figure that out, and especially get it to the right economy that you want. So if you want a specific economy, you're going to have to really try harder to place things that are or you might have to repeat certain things in a system. So you may have to put multiple of the same kind of type of economy building into your system to get the economy you want now, and you may not be able to mix it up right and stuff like that. The only other way around that, I think, for a lot of my guys, the color of the interior of the station is really important. That's probably one of the most important things to them. So we've gone through, different methods of making that happen. So if we want a certain color in the station, we don't really care about the economy as much, and we don't always try to min-max that. Some of us do, some of us don't, but in any event, it has been in effect now. I have looked at it. It is different, and yeah, and I understand what they're trying to get at, especially for, if you're going to build smaller systems, just make sure you just pick like one economy and, you know, hope for the best. Move things around on the SRV survey and see if you can get it to work out. Some of them it's not going to work out, and the problem is that if you get a system, you go through the process. You probably could try to do a whole system before you buy a system, but that takes a lot of time, commanders. So just be careful. Don't be too upset if you don't get the color you want. For now, it's possible down the road they'll give us a way to change the interior color, ignoring the economy, but I don't think they will, just because they don't want us all to have white interiors all across the galaxy. Not that everybody would. That's just kind of me just making things up there. So anyway, but people would do that. Resolve Powerplay care packages panel becoming corrupt. Yeah, I remember that part. Yeah, it would just, some people had so many care packages. I mean, this should have been fixed. Literally, this should have been fixed a while ago, because that's really annoying. Now these are the really fun ones. The UI acceleration on transfer amount when moving commodities to fleet carriers. Man, thank holy baby Jesus, because that was so annoying. Now this was broke, but I believe they also fixed it. This was broke again because it was causing the $0 error at some point, and you weren't able to transfer stuff. But I'll tell you what, this is the fastest way now to transfer commodities back and forth on your carrier. Now, if you're not having anybody help you, this is the best way to go. But if you want friends, then you're going to have to do buy and sell orders, as we've been doing in the past. This was a good one too. Resolved apostrophes being blocked when renaming a system colonization facility. That's a great one. They resolved some issues with cargo not transferring correctly to fleet carriers. That's another one that was just driving us crazy. That's the one that was also in line with kind of this moving one. It didn't want you to move large amounts, especially there was an event about a month ago that it was really prevalent. Like, you could really tell that was a thing that was not going to be good. Resolved instances where amount of required commodities was more than on the pre-purchase screen when selecting a facility for system colonization. Okay. All right. That's a good one. I didn't ever notice that, but hey, it happens. Resolved instances where squadron-aligned factions were not present in system colonization claimed systems. So that's basically if you are aligned with a minor faction in the game and you colonize a new system, if your minor faction was not the originating faction where you bought the beacon, then your faction would show up third in the list of minor factions, system factions that would be in the system. So you can eventually you can manipulate the BGS to make your minor faction the top faction, and as long as there's no pushback, it's a pretty easy process. Most people don't care, at least not in the colonization realm. I haven't seen anybody fighting over that or going through and just trying to clear out everybody, especially if it's a bridge, something like that. Nobody cares. So Resolved instance where the Cobra Mark V was triggering hostile reactions at a settlement when landing. Ooh, we're gonna fly that today. So we're gonna fly that on the Saturday live stream. Don't forget, guys, Saturday live stream this weekend. We are gonna do the new community goal, and you're gonna love it because I do not know anything about exobiology, and I will suck at it. So it's gonna be great. All right, so resolved. Certain commodities being flagged as illegal in Asling Duval systems. Don't know about that one because I'm not sure about that one. Resolved an exploit undermining with low value commodities. Okay, I think that was covered previously. Resolved instances of missions incorrectly impacting the BGS during elections and power play systems. Yeah, so when you were doing missions for certain factions, if they weren't the primary faction, I think that the power play was not correctly giving the boost to influence to the correct faction, and they fixed that. Good job, boys. Resolved instances where some of the players' ships were not accessible after updating to Odyssey. Ooh, well, it's about damn time. Welcome to the parties, pal. Or, sorry, welcome to the parties. Welcome to the party, pals. That's what I meant to say. Adjustments to merit rewards for selling individual commodities rather than in bulk. Okay, they already talked about that. So now the resolve newly colonized systems not triggering conflicts like settlements. That's true. That was happening because I was trying to do that. We were in a war with another faction the other day, and there were no ground wars, and I was like, "What's that's really weird." There were space, you could do conflict zones of space, but you couldn't do the ground with stuff. So yeah, they fixed that. Great. That's another great fix. Adjustments made to the cockpit camera movement and the Panther Clipper Mark II when rolling. Okay. Alrighty. Now they have a number of bug fixes. I'm not going to go after all of those, but you guys can read all of this at the, just type in your little Google, Elite Dangerous patch notes. They got them all. There's a lot of bugs fixed it. Did I say fixed it? I did. And so you guys can check that out. And that's where we're at there with that. So the next hot item on the docket today is we're going to need to tab over here so we can see our Mark V Cobra just sitting there all pretty, just waiting next to this station. Looks like that station looks like it's hungry. It looks like it's moving too, or turning. Somebody's moving, because I could have swore I was a little closer to the front door. I'm kind of close to those swinging arms now. We might get blasted by it before the end of this video. So there's that. The next thing on my list today is we got to talk about the permit lock lifted for HIP. What is it? 70. Dang it. I thought I was going to write that down. I forgot. Anyway, there's the permit lock lifted over there in HIP something, 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 something. And we're going to actually get into that this coming up later when the live stream comes out on Saturday. We usually have that around 10 a.m. Saturdays. That's 10 a.m. Mountain, which is -7 GMT. So that permit lock was lifted, and what people found in there is some shenanigans. They found a new flora fauna kind of thing, and we're going to talk about that more later. So I'm not going to get too deep on it right now, Commanders, but just know there's some new exobiology stuff. But let me just tell you, from what I've seen, this thing is just jam-packed with Spire Site vibes, okay? So the Spire Sites, if you were in the Thargoid War, you had been to a Spire Site. The Spire Sites, when they first came out, they were not fully built, okay? They started from a very small thing, and then over time, they built them all the way up to these giant structures that you could see from space. That is basically where we're at again now with this new structure. My theory is it's kind of the ground version of Spire Sites, because the Spire Sites in the Thargoid War were really, you could parkour around on them, but they were very far off the ground, much higher than what the current structures are. And you will see more about that. If you don't know what these are or what to do, just come and join me on the live stream and I will show you what I know. But I'm telling you guys, it's almost identical to a spire site. It's, you know, the color of the terraforming or whatever's going on, or the whatever they call that, exhaust or whatever. I don't know what it is exactly. We never really knew what it was for the Thargoid War, but in the Thargoid War, everything was caustic. The thing you have to worry about now in this one is that the heat is really high. So if you try to do this stuff in the sun, you're going to find yourself struggling. So it's best to do it in the shade if possible. And I will tell you all about that later on when we get there. All right. So commanders, I think that is it. We are going to have a live stream. Like I said, please feel free to like and subscribe to the video. You can join us on our Discord and many other things, many other platforms in the description below the video. And that's all I got, commanders. I will talk to you all next time.